one big thing though that is clearly inferior here compared to the NC. It's a battle of two classic Japanese roadsters from the late aughts. We have a 2007 Honda S2000, that's the AP2, and we have a 2010 Mazda Miata Grand Touring. This is an NC2. It's the age-old question, but the market values the S2000 more than the NC Miata. These go for around 15 to 20K, and those are right around 25K. The NC Miata with the power retractable hardtop is weighing in a little over 2,500 pounds, and the S2000 is right around 2,800 pounds. Both are front midship engine, although you can see in the S2000 it's even further back from the front axle. But front engine, rear wheel drive, both front midship, both having that classic sports car equation. Now the funny thing is that the Honda S2000, even though it's older, it has E-Pass steering. It was the first generation of E-Pass for Honda at the time, and it is one of the weaknesses of the Honda S2000, as we all know. The NC, even though this is 3 years later, this is the 2010 versus the 2007, this one has hydraulic steering, the last Miata to have hydraulic steering. This GT trim, in addition to the power retractable hardtop, also comes with a limited slip differential in the rear, which the Honda S2000 also has as standard. Here, we're powered by a 2-liter inline-4 naturally aspirated, making 167 horsepower, 140 pound-feet of torque. In terms of mods, both are actually running Ohlins Road Track coilovers, and both are on the same ExtremeContact Sport 02 tires. Here we have upgraded Beehive 5K rear springs, that's 7K front, 5K rear, with Sakebomb Lower Mounting Cups with spherical bearings. We have the Goodwin Racing Helmholtz race muffler, and we have these Rota Titans 17x9, and again the ExtremeContact Sport 02s. This is 225 section width all around. The NC Miata, being the largest one, is the most tall person friendly, but the issue is that the steering wheel only tilts, it doesn't telescope. So if you're a taller driver like I am, you're either going to be comfortable with your legs and therefore uncomfortable with your arms being stretched out. Legs are good, but arms are really far out. Or you're going to sit closer so your arms feel good, but then your legs are really cramped. So I prefer to have my legs nice and comfy, my arms stretched out a little bit. Love the shift knob. Same one from Eric's NC, from that NC comparison. You can see a link in the description. I love the feeling of the NC shifter. Just about every Miata has an incredible feeling shifter. They all feel so much more expensive in a small, lightweight, affordable car. And speaking of affordable, by the way, guys, for those who are into watches, we got this Revlo chronograph watch called the Mechadromo. It's for less than 250 bucks. And I figure for car enthusiasts, you guys are tired of seeing the expensive stuff. I get it. Something more affordable, like these cars. You get so much driving pleasure for the price, though. It is just so pure. Out of all the Miatas, I think the NC has the most memorable powertrain. Redline at 72, but the fuel cutoff's a bit higher. Suspension giving me good feedback from the road, good texture, not too stiff, right? In this setup, it's not punishing on the road at all. And you can get a little bit of that lean, a little bit of that set as you get into these corners. Good feedback from the steering. For a car like this, relatively sharp steering as well. Relatively immediate front. Both of these cars do have double wishbone in the front, multi-link rear. Remember, when you heel toe, you gotta blow the throttle a little bit harder in Miatas. It's an immediate throttle response. It just requires a bit more of a generous blip. You get that rev match perfect. We're down on power, but also down on weight compared to the S2000. Both have incredible powertrains, especially the S2000, of course. But even here, I feel like compared to other Miatas, including my own ND Miata, the NC has this specialness to the engine where it builds and changes character a little bit more compared to the ND. The ND can be a bit too smooth at times. The additional power in the ND is nice. But you also want to feel and hear a bit more from your focused roadster, right? This is giving you that character, that fun. Now with the NC, because it is larger compared to other Miatas and it has this longer wheelbase, since it is based on the shared RX-8 platform and architecture, they gave it this suspension toe change in the rear that toes in and out at corner entry, in at corner exit. And that can sometimes make the rear feel a little bit unstable, a little bit uncertain right as you first turn in. But I would argue that also makes it feel a little bit more alive, more fun, more lively. It's very slight, I wouldn't say lack of confidence, but you know that the rear isn't quite as planted. Even on a damp day like this with the top up, it is still such an amazing driving experience. You don't even need the top down. I think NCs, again, as an ND owner, I think NCs are still the most fun. They're not going to be as comfortable for daily driving, things like that. But for bombing a canyon road, these just have a little bit more of that X factor. Steering here is giving you a good amount of information. It's quite direct. The front end for a car like this is sharp enough. And you can feel it's willing to rotate, it's willing to change directions because that weight, that engine is further back and lower down. From the NB to the NC, they purposely did that to improve the driving dynamics. It's amazing how they've continued to iterate on the Miata formula and made each generation better. You know, the NC gets a lot of hate unfairly. I think it is still a very fun, very special generation. Steering wheel, as in most Miatas, at least the more recent ones, is a bit too large for my taste. A common complaint. Let's give you one more pull. It just gets the inputs dialed in so properly. The steering is talkative to you. The transmission is just has that perfect balance of mechanical and slickness. Throttle is immediate. Pedal placement is fine. The seating position, again, not optimal for certain body types if you're larger and taller. But in the NC generation, you do get a good amount of interior room in case you have larger body habitus. There's a reason they say that Miata is always the answer, but today the question I have is if I were to spend a little more money, 5K, 10K more, would I be better off with an AP2 S2000? Let's find out. The 2007 Honda S2000 AP2 is powered by the FA22 engine, a 2.2-liter naturally aspirated inline-4, making 237 horsepower, 162 pound-feet of torque. It's clearly a larger car than the NC Miata, a longer wheelbase, and again, about 300 pounds heavier as well. Full mod list as always down in the description, but in short, we have Ohlins Rota Titans here as well, 10K in the front, 8K in the rear, Boone rigid collars, Stoptech Sport pads, Stoptech braided lines. We got these gorgeous Volk TE37 wheels, and I gotta say, I'm digging the red on bronze look. Very classy. And they're wrapped in OEM size ExtremeContact Sport 02s. That's 215 section width in the front and 245 in the rear. It's gonna give us a little bit more of like a safety setup, right? It's not gonna be as oversteer friendly with the extra rubber in the back. We also have an aggressive street alignment, so the OEM toe is still in place, but we have -2 degrees of front camber and -2.7 degrees of rear camber. We have the K&N FIPK intake, Miltech catback exhaust, and Recaro pole position seats. And these things look like brand new right now. Really nice condition. I like the very simple Japanese interior for both these cars, but especially in the Honda S2000. You get ignition and starter separate, and it makes it feel ever so slightly more special, like more of an occasion. And I love the McLaren Formula One inspired tack and dash there, back from when Honda and McLaren were collaborating. And even just like having this head unit hidden behind this panel, I love how special the interior of the Honda S2000 feels. Steering and shift knob are even closer, but again, same issue with the lack of tilting, actually not even an adjustable steering wheel. So if you're a taller driver, it's not going to be as optimal, but this is a larger car, so I find myself not being as squished and as cramped in the legs, not being as stretched out with the arms. Oh yeah, and this also has VTEC, of course. Now both this and the NC have these Ohlins Rota Track coilovers. And the issue is that you can get bottoming out in the rear with both when you go with these aftermarket coilovers, but the owner for the NC has done some mods there to control for that, yet this still feels like the more sophisticated of the two. It also feels a little bit more serious in the way that it's set up. And part of that is the suspension, part of that is just the chassis underneath, just the bones of the car. And I think part of that's also going to be these bucket seats. Oh man, I love that induction note. We also have the front midship engine here, as well as double wishbone front, multi-link rear. But see, with the Miata, they wanted it to feel sharper at turn-in. So that's why they gave it that toe-out nature at the corner entry. And they call that kinematic toe control, and then the compliance toe control, when it compresses later on in the corner, it would toe in for stability. They don't do that here in the S2000. And I think that's part of the reason why it feels more confidence-inspiring, especially at the rear end. The engine here makes more power. It feels more special. This AP2 revs up to 8,200 versus the 9K of the AP1, but it still feels so special. And as you get close to redline, and as you hit VTEC too, just the character build and such, the NC2 is better than the ND, but the AP2 S2000 is still better than the NC. One big thing though that is clearly inferior here compared to the NC is the steering. Again, this is an early E-Pass unit, and you just don't have really much feedback at all through the steering wheel. I would say though that the AP1 has a faster steering ratio, and because of that faster steering ratio, the front end feels a little bit more responsive, and you actually get slightly more feedback as well. Again, things that you can change with various mods and alignment and such. But in these two examples, the NC is clearly better with steering. Even the transmission in both is so good. So good, but there's something about a Honda S2000 transmission that it has these extra short throws, this extra mechanical feel to it. The centerpiece of the S2000 is this powertrain, this engine transmission combo. It's just really hard to beat. As they say, say Honda is an engine manufacturer, an engine builder that happens to make cars around it. Now we do have a stiffer setup here, so the ride comfort is slightly compromised compared to that NC, but you have much better body control. And I would say the trade-off here, you take 1 or 2 points of a hit to the ride comfort, but you get 3 or 4 points in benefit to the body control and immediacy to the chassis. When these were new, the Honda S2000, of course when you adjust for inflation, was a more expensive car than the NC Miata. So when you keep that in mind, it starts to make more sense why this car feels a little bit more sophisticated. And so much of the NC, I have to remind myself to blip it a little bit harder to get those rev matches just right. There we go. Brakes have been a weak point for the S2000 coming straight from factory. But here on this road, we're not pushing them too hard. And I like the feel of this current setup with the braided lines and the new pads as well. Not too bitey at the beginning, it's more gradual, more congruent with the rest of the vehicle. But then gives way to this good firmness with good modulation. Can't get over this transmission though. It is one of my all-time favorite transmissions. It is such money. Some people complain that these are gutless down low, but that's a feature, not a bug. It makes you want to rev this thing out. Sure, it doesn't have quite as much low mid-range torque as the Miata. It feels really gutless down low. But man, you start bringing this thing out and you get the sound and you get more of that shove and the extra power. It's clearly a quicker car than the NC. Better power to weight ratio as well, even though it's heavier. It makes sense why these are valued higher in the market today, and part of that's going to be supply and demand, the number of NCs they made versus the number of S2000s. But it's also desirability. A lot of people would agree that the Honda S2000 has this X factor. It has this emotionality to it, especially with that powertrain that's just hard to beat. And I thought that it was all just powertrain until today, where I can now more readily see the differences in the chassis as well. It's a slightly more sophisticated chassis here. On paper, they're both, double wishbone front, multi-link rear, but the way it's set up, the construction of the chassis, sure, the squeaks and rattles here with the tops up on both vehicles, and neither is incredibly rigid by modern standards, but you can see that more went into the S2000 in certain ways, and I think that's what leads to the high market value of current day. If it was my money, yeah, I'd probably pony up the extra cash, because that emotionality and visceral nature, the connectedness that I get from the Honda S2000 is hard to beat. And you guys know how much I love steering, and yet still, even though the Honda S2000 steering is a major drawback, a major weakness, the other things just make up for that. And fuck, man, every time I get in one of these cars, I know I need to buy one, but I got a Miata right now, and I can't have both a Miata and S2000 at this time. But one day, an S2000 will be mine. They say Miata is always the answer, but maybe not when you're comparing it against an S2000. My friends, let me know what you think with a comment down below. Big thanks to the owners for letting us review their Miata and S2000. Big thanks to Fenton's son from the Goodwin YouTube channel for making this review possible. And if you want your car reviewed, visit us on jabalandcars.com, fill out the form on the homepage, and I'll see you all in that next one.